Okay. Good morning, everybody. We're going to start with the new week, the Chitas of the week, which is this week's portion, the portion of Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. So we ended off last week's portion with the story of the passing of the story of the Akedah. I'm sorry with the light situation, but we're out of light in this building, and we might actually lose total connection. The story of the Akedah, which is the story of bringing Isaac as a sacrifice, and the Medrash says that when Sarah was informed about this, she had a sudden heart attack or whatever, and she passed away. And Abraham actually was not there at her passing, and Abraham comes back from his journey to the Akedah. He comes to the passing of his wife. So we're holding on chapter 23, verse number 1, the new portion. Vayiyu Chayei Sarah was the life of Sarah. Meya Shana, she lived 100 years. Esrim Shana, she lived 20 years. V'sheva Shanim, and she lived for 7 years, 127 years. Shnei Chayei Sarah, this is the life of Sarah. So Rashi says, the Rashi on this, it says, why did the Torah say 127, each one separately? So the Rashi brings on a medrash that each one was a separate, so to say, category. Basmeya kebas esem lechet. She was like 100, like 20 to sin. You know, God does not judge a person until they're 20. So she was pure of sin, like a 20-year-old. Bas esem lechet, just like until 20, you're not considered to be sinned. Because you're not at the age of punishment. In the Torah, you're only at the age of punishment from 20 and on. So too, at the age of 100, she was like pure without sin. And she was like 100, and she was like 20 to 7 in her beauty, that she was truly a beautiful woman all her life. Shnei Chayei Sarah, the verse again repeats, this is the life of Sarah. And Rashi says, the meaning of repeating it a second time, Kulam Shavin L'Teva. All of them were equally good. It's interesting because you know that even though Sarah didn't have per se a happy life, her whole life she struggled most of her life with not having children, but she always took it L'Teva. She always took everything to the good. Verse number 2. Sarah passed away in the Kiryas Arba, which is Hebron till today. Beretz Canaan, which then was the land of Canaan. Vayavi Avram, and Abraham came to eulogize her and to cry over her. So Rashi says, why is it called Kiryat Arba, the city of 4? Because over there lived 4 giants. Achiman, Sheshai, Talma, Vaviem. These were 3 giants and their father, and that's why it was called Kiryat Arba, the city of 4. Another reason you could say, because over there was in Hebron were ultimately buried the four pairs, which was Adam and Chava is buried in the Mars of Mapela, Avram and Sarah, Yitzhak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah, and that's why it's called Kiryat Arba, the city of 4, until today. Avram and Abraham came. Where did he come from? Beersheba. He stopped on the way back. As it's told last week, he stopped off in Beersheba. Lispei l'Sara, Viliv Kaisa. He came to eulogize his wife and to cry over her. What's the connection between Akedah and the sacrifice of Isaac and the story of her death? So, as I told you, Rashi brings down the Medrash when Sarah heard that her son was appeared to be slaughtered, she soul left her body and she died. Sudden death. Verse number 3. Avram stood up from his dead, and he spoke to the people of Ches. Verse number 4, he said, I am a stranger and an inhabitant with you. Give me a burial property with you, and let me bury my dead. So now she says, What is a ger v'soishav? A ger sounds like he's like a stranger, and a soishav sounds like he lives there. So Rashi says, ger me'eretz acheretz. I'm taka stranger. I come from a different land, but I moved here. Number one, and number two, the Medrash says, if you want, I'll be a ger. I'll be a stranger, and if not, I am going to take it because I am actually. So either you give it to me as a stranger, you want to do me a favor, or I will take it because this land belongs to me. I've come to take it from you by law because God gave me this land. So therefore, achuzas kever, I'm asking you for a place to bury my wife. Verse number 5. So the sons of Ches said to him, listen, my Lord, you are a prince of God, and you're in our midst. Take the best and choicest graves you want. None of us will hold back. We're not going to hold you back. You're entitled. We're giving you whatever you want. Verse number 7. Avram arose and he bowed to them and for their unbelievable kindness. But he was not happy. In verse number 8, no, he said, if you allow me to bury my the person, my wife, I want you to go out and bring me Ephraim and Sechar, who is the owner of this land. So now, if you have the will to give me the land, bring me Ephraim and Sechar. I want a specific land. I want the cave of the Machpelah, Ashaloi, which belongs to him, Asher which is part of his field. B'kesev mal, I'm not asking any favors. I'm going to give him cash. Yitnenu li, I'm going to pay for it. B'seichem lachuzas kever, in the midst of his land for a burial. So Rashi says, a machpelah. Why is this called a machpelah? Machpelah means that it was a structure with an upper story above it. Another reason why it's called machpelah. Machpelah means doubled, because it had doubled of couples. Avram, Yitzchak, Adam and Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov. The Kesef Malay. So now she says, I will pay you full value. So Hebron was bought with full value. And now she says, so to Yerushalayim. David HaMelech bought Yerushalayim, even though he conquered it. The Kesef Malay paid full dollar. Verse number 10. Ephraim was living in the midst of Bnei Ches. So Ephron Achiti said that Avram to Abraham when he was asked for the land. He said the following statement. So now she says, Ephron Yeshiv. Yeshiv is spelled defectly. He's missing a vav. It can be therefore Yoshav in the past tense, meaning that he had just sat there. He just came there. On that very day, he was appointed as an officer over them. And why was he appointed exactly that day? Because of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu needed him to give over the land at that day, and that day he became a Gan Tziknaka. So L'chol Ba'ashar he said to all the people of the city, because everybody, when Abraham's wife died, everybody came to respect Sarah, so they were all there at this story. So he told them, verse 11, I said, no, listen to me. You have it. I'm giving it to you for free. In front of everybody. I'm giving it to you for free. Bury your dead. So the Rashi says, I don't want any money. And I'm giving it to you as a gift. Verse number 12. Avram again, so to say, bowed himself before this wonderful gesture. But he's not happy. Verse 13. He speaks to Ephraim in the ears of the people of the land. No, you have to listen to me. I'm giving you money for the field. I'm thank you for the gift, but I'm not interested in any gifts. I am interested in paying for this field. So now she says, you're telling me I should listen to you and I should take it for free. I am asking to you to listen to me and take my money. Nasati. So now she says, if I have given, and in Old French, it's ready with me, and I wish that I have already given it to you. It means I have the money is here, and take the money. So, verse 14. Ephron said to Avram, listen. Adoni Shemeni, listen to me, my Lord. You want to pay? Eretz Abba Meis shekel kesef. I'll give me for the land 400 shekel of silver. Beiniya beinach, between us. Mahi, what is 400 coins of silver between us? Besmeischa kvod, and bury Sarah. Beiniya beinach. So that's one between me and you. Between two friends as we are, what is the importance of $400? Last verse 16. Yishma Avram el Ephraim. So Avram Avinu listen here to Ephraim. Yishkal Avram le Ephraim sakesev. Avram weighed out the Ephraim, the silver. Ashadiba bazne eches abba mei shekel kesev. He counted the 400 pieces of silver. Oivel asecha, accepted by the merchants. So Rashi says over here, the word Ephraim is missing a letter. Whenever the word is missing a letter, that means something is fishy, so to say. And Rashi says Ephraim is spelled without a vav because he promised much and did even little. He promised the cave as a gift, and he took a great deal of money for it. For he took from him a large shekel. Its interior worth 100 smaller shekels, as it stated, except by merchants. This was a special shekel, that it was like a universal shekel. It was not the regular shekel. They were accepted as full shekel elsewhere. For the places that have large shekels versus centurions or zinteriors, I don't know this English, this is Old French, and they were very valuable international money. So each shekel was worth much more than a shekel. So ultimately, he took a lot of money, and Avram Avinu gave it to him. And there we end today's Chumash of the day. We will now go to the Tanya of the day, which is continue in chapter in the letters of the Alter Rebbe, the 29th, the letter of 29. So here we have the Tanya of the day. So Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain that in addition to the function of mitzvahs as a garment for the soul, they also serve as unite the sublime spiritual of the level of Kesed. That means that the mitzvah, not only that we mentioned the mitzvahs are called in Kabbalah, in Chassidus, they're called the levushim, they're garments for the soul in this world. And as we explained before, they're garments for the soul in the upper world, in Gan Eden. And as I explained before, there's Gan Eden in this world right now, and then there's Gan Eden, that's Gan Eden HaTachtein, and then there's Gan Eden the Elyon, and many different levels of Gan Eden. The Alter Rebbe says another great thing of a mitzvah, because a mitzvah is called tzafsa v'chibur. A mitzvah is a connector, and the Alter Rebbe is going to give the analogy. Let's see. Now the supernal will, because we mentioned that a mitzvah is even higher. We learned that mitzvah is the ratzon of God, the will of God. A Torah is the wisdom of God. A mitzvah is the will of God. So really a mitzvah even goes higher in a way than Torah in certain aspects, because a mitzvah has the capability, the power of the ratzon the Eibishter, that a mitzvah connects the physical and the spiritual. The Torah, which is wisdom, connects the brain maybe to the spiritual, but the mitzvah actually connects the physical, because every mitzvah is physical, and the mitzvah connects the physical with the spiritual. Why? Because the mitzvah in essence, the will of God, and it comes from a higher level than even the wisdom, and it comes from the will. So that's why in Kabbalah, it's called Kesed, the crown. We have Chochmah, which is wisdom, and then we have the crown of the king, which is above the Chochmah, so to say, of the king. So there's a eternal crown, and there are 620 pillars of light. 620. There are 613 mitzvahs, the Torah, and there's 7 mitzvahs that are Rabbanan. So you have 620. And also the word Kesed equals up to 620. So that's the crown. The crown of God is the mitzvahs of God, the will of God, that has 620 pillars. By the way of an analogy, just as a large brick house, there are pillars standing in the ground. In the epics is connected to the ceiling. You take a big mansion, let's say, and there are big pillars in front that are connected to the roof or the ceiling of the about, and they come down and they are connected to the ground. Precisely so, metaphorically speaking, the supernal Kesed, the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the will of God, which transcends Chachma, which is the first and the higher of the inner spirits. V'hu Meloshen Keseres. The word Kesed is related to Ketoret, Shumachtir, which surrounds, Umakif Alamoichin, surrounds and encompasses over the brain of the head like a crown. The faculty of Chabad, Chochma Bina Das. So this is the Ratzon, which is in a way higher. This is the will of God, which is a way higher than even the wisdom of God. This supernal will is vested. It's like it comes down into a 630 mitzvahs in the Torah and 7 mitzvahs of the rabbis. Shekula Reuven Kekula mitzvahs ma'asos, majority of 613 and the 7 rabbinical commandments are mitzvahs ma'asos. Like Chanukah is a mitzvah of the Rabbanan. We make a bracha. Sheket Shana Mitzvah V'Tzivanu Lahadik Ner Chanukah. God commanded us to light the Chanukah, but the rabbis commanded us to light the Chanukah. But we consider it as a Torah obligation. There's 7 different mitzvahs. And those commandments are also connected to speech, Torah also. So even Torah, which is the wisdom of God, you need to speak it. You need to speak in the words of Torah. And as the moving of the lips is an action. So even Torah, the Chachma of God, also needs to come, is a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah in Torah to learn Torah. So you have the Torah itself comes into an action. And so even commandments which relates to the heart, which is the heart of a human being. So Torah says, you shall love God. The Abish doesn't want you to love God only spiritually. He wants you to love God like you love anything else in the world. For the commandments are given to a physical man, this physical world. Which every human being has free choice. To turn his heart to good, or the opposite. But with a soul without a body doesn't need to have any of these commandments because he has naturally loves God. But a body that maybe doesn't love naturally God, we have a mitzvah, and we have the free choice to follow through in loving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you see, even the thought and feelings in a human being and a speech is also considered a gashmi. So thus it follows, so I'm giving you the analogy. It follows that commandments, metaphorically speaking, are like pillars that stand and they connect the highest levels of the supernal will to this material world. And that's the greatness of the mitzvahs. Metaphorically speaking, they are like hollow pillars that encompass and garb with the garments of mitzvahs, man's neshama or ruach or nefesh when he fills this commandment. So they are both, in essence, the Alter Rebbe said, I'm not going to weigh that mitzvahs are lavushim. They are both a lavush, they surround the person and they connect him to above. By the way of these pillars of the mitzvahs, his nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which, as he writes, abbreviated Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, the three lower levels of the soul. The soul has 5 levels. So his Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, the 3 lower levels of the soul, with Nefesh is used as symbolic to the most physical part of the soul, connected to action. His Ruach, which is the emotions of the soul. His Neshama, which is the intellect of the soul, which are all connected to the human being. So through those garments, they are able to behold the pleasantness of God and the pleasurable thirst, which transcends the level of Kesser, and metaphorically speaking, are its pneumias, which ultimately connects the neshama to the essence of God. Though it explains elsewhere that commandments are the pneumias of the supernal will, while here it explains they're merely external aspect of Kesser, an external aspect of the supernal will. So we have a contradiction that Alter Rebbe writes a little bit, seemingly, that is it the essence of Kesser, or is it only an external aspect of Kesser? So the Rebbe says those who are adapted to the hidden wisdom, if you know Kabbalah, are well acquainted with multiple aspects and level within every aspect and level among the various levels of holiness. So there are numerous aspects of face-to-face meaning. Some pnimi are related to pnimis that are related to a particular spiritual level. Another level is more eternal and nearer to the essence. And there are numerous aspects of external and externally meaning the verse without end. So in everything you can have the pnimis and the chetzonis, the inner and the outer, and everything has its place. You know, that the expression is that you find the Gemara, that the Gemara says tzedakah is the most important mitzvah, and then it says Torah is the most important mitzvah, and then it says putting on tefillin is the most important mitzvah, and then it said every mitzvah is the most important mitzvah, and because every mitzvah has its importance, and every mitzvah has as part of the general mitzvahs of the Torah. So everything has its place. And now the Rebbe says, "V'nizayim mitzvahs d'Rabbanan." And now the seventh precepts of the sages, what I counted as part of the 620, are not counted as commandments in themselves. Why are they not 620 commandments? It's 613 commandments. For it has been said, "You shall not add." So you cannot have 620. There's 613. So therefore, they're not like a new commandment. That's why if you learn Gemara, you'll see the Gemara says, where is Chanukah in the Torah? Where is Purim in the Torah? We have to find it in the Torah. It has to be an extension of the Torah. So rather they derive an issue from the commandments of the Torah and are included in them in the sum of the 600 commandments, regard the 600 aspects of the power in the nefesh, ruach, and neshama of man. And so we have come to the conclusion of today's Chumash, Tehillim, Chumash, and Tanya. Now it's important as the 21st day of the month of Cheshvan. Today's Tehillim, today's Psalms are chapter 104 and 105. Chapter 104, 105. You do those two chapters now, you have accomplished learning Chitas today. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock.